delay, as far as I know. Or there is. What's the current state? So I guess are we on gas limit like 1 or 0x2000 or something now? What's the state basically? Carlos?
Sorry. The actual state, yeah. The problem is I shared a wrong configuration. It has a wrong difficulty. That's what causes some mismatch when outside nodes when trying to enter the network. But yeah, that's basically the problem. Because of that issue, I wasn't also able to run the Ariga nodes, so it's now running full on Nethermind. So I will be updating them when we fix this, but it's just a configuration problem. The rest of the network, since we have the 80% of it, it's working fine. I guess it already passes the Chapella fork, so withdrawals can be tested with the new contracts. So yeah, and that's pretty much it.
All right, so just to be clear, which is the right config? Like which Genesis hash?
Yeah, I shared the new file on the new chain spec on the chat on Telegram. But the only difference with the one I shared earlier is the Genesis block difficulty, which should be set to 1. This is the value I use it on my nodes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I think that was already clear, but I hadn't read the last message you said. Right.
Do Nethermind have metrics for withdraw themes, like ETH withdraw per block or some counter like that?
I had to review. Yeah. You can go, Ruben.
I don't know. I don't think we have, but I'm not sure.
Could you add them?
Yeah, I will check.
I know that Geth has a bunch of withdraw metrics that have been very, very helpful on testnets.
I'll take a look. I can't promise yet, but I'll try to figure it out.
All right, so I guess at this point, Gnosis and Gateway are not running nodes because the config was wrong. I think maybe Line, you can show your dashboard if it's something you want to do. But yeah, so I guess there's not much to discuss regarding the DevNet. Then, as Chapella just went through, I guess there's no tests for withdrawals and all of that yet.
Yeah, well, I guess all the credentials are still 0x0, right?
Yeah, at least our credentials, which is most of the network, aren't updated. So yeah, that's probably it.
So most, or has any of them been updated at all?
No, any of them have been updated.
Okay.
All right. Let's move on to then other updates for now. Let's start with Nethermind like usual.
Yeah, as Marcos is not here, I will give his update on Hive test. So we improved the Genesis loading for Nethermind and Aragon. We tested it for Nethermind, but not for Aragon. And according to Marcos, we probably will start writing Hive test by the end of this week if everything goes fine. So there's some progress on that side. And yeah, that's it.
Sorry, could you repeat the first part?
We improved the Genesis loading made it more flexible for Nethermind and Aragon, and we tested that on Nethermind, but not with Aragon yet. And we expect the test to start writing tests by the end of this week.
All right. Do you think does he have an idea of an ETA or something to when test will be at least some useful at some degree, because it's really a huge blocker at this point, and yeah, we really need them to be done basically.
I would expect sometime next week.
So you think by next week all withdrawal tests will be adapted for Gnosis from Ethereum?
I don't know how many of them, but probably some of them. So that depends on Marcus. So I would prefer waiting for him for some more detailed updates.
Okay, I'll ping him offline then, because yeah, it's kind of important at this point. And are there like client updates which are not Hive tests and not related to the DevNet?
No updates.
Okay. Aragon, do you have updates?
No, nope.
Okay. It's Guillaume here. Yes, he is.
Yes. Yeah, I do have a small update. So I was able to import the state, so basically to simulate SnapSync, and now I'm starting the node in full sync mode, and I'm trying to debug. It's just not connecting, or at least it's not getting blocks. But at least the first step seems to be done. Now I just have to figure out why it's not downloading blocks. But once this is done, I should have I should have a working prototype at least. Yep, that's it.
Awesome, thank you. So I'm getting on Prism, there's no update still.
No, because I'm focusing on guess. I think we already have enough what's that called, CLs, and I think guess is the priority. I mean, tell me if you think otherwise, but that's my way of seeing it.
No, I agree. Maybe, I mean, I've played with Prism a bit as well. I haven't found everything yet, but hopefully I can do it myself if I find some time. We'll see. Okay, Gateway.
Yeah, so on Gateway for DevNet, as you've seen in Telegram chat, there were no peers found. I hope that the new config shared will fix it. Let's see. But that was the issue. And Igor shared it. Then we also started to provision Optimism setup on Gateway side and hope to use a clone of it for Oli. Now, also on Monday, we'll have call with Ricardo on Oli and Optimism. So I wouldn't say that it's currently for Oli, but we are going to reuse the same setups that we're currently doing for Oli.
Okay.
That's it.
And it's a fork of Optimism, or is it?
It's Bedrock Optimism.
Okay. All right, and then we have two research topics. So we've been discussing the churn coefficients recently. So this is more of a consensus layer variable, which basically indicates how many validators can join and exit the beacon chain on a given time frame. So it's the base, it's 4 validators per epoch, whatever. And basically it's a bit low on Gnosis, meaning that for every 4,096 validators added to the network, 1 additional validator can join or exit per epoch. And as we have like 124, I think, thousand active validators, this means we can already we can add 20 or more, I don't remember exactly, validators per epoch, which means that technically that it would be possible to do kind of a flash attack, like that would take maybe 1 day or 2 to basically onboard additional validators until you get like up to 60% or 66% of the network.
Yeah, and also the epochs are quite fast.
Yeah. So I don't know if you have a bit more to say about that line. I know you've been doing the research, so I'll give it up to you.
Yeah, I did some simulations back in the day of like the impact of in max inflow and max outflow, and it's pretty dramatic. So meaning the chain could go from 100,000 validators to less than 20,000 in about 5 days, and on the upside, the network could be doubled, I think, in like 1 or 2 days. So, I mean, no need to put the exact numbers, but I can link the HackMD. Yeah, so I guess that the problem is that has security implications on different assumptions, as it was brought up. So we may want to move that number to something that makes more sense. Like we need to figure out what that number is, depending on what goals do we want. I was checking first if we can do that, because in this call we have execution clients but no consensus clients. We have never modified the clients before, so that would be a first. It's a tiny change, but even this tiny change has some implications. It would add a bunch of overhead on the teams, at least. So Teku and Lighthouse, they say okay. Nimbus, maybe, and did not talk with Prism, but well, and Lothar, yeah, no problem. The thing probably, if we want to do this, then we will diverge from Ethereum. So we would have to maintain Ethereum spec tests, which is, it's an overhead that we have to consider.
I think I'm not yet really understanding the problem. So why is this a problem for Gnosis Chain, and why is it not? Or I mean, then why wouldn't it be a problem for Ethereum? Is it simply because we have less validators, or?
Well, for Ethereum, the number is actually 16 times higher for the churn limit, meaning that right now, I mean, on Ethereum, it's 4 validators per epoch, and starting at 320 something thousand validators, it's 1 additional can be executed. So on Ethereum, it's every 65,000 to 2 to the 16th basically, and on Gnosis it's every 2 to the 12th. So it's a lot more already.
Okay, so sorry, just one step back. So we launched when basically the former XDAI team launched the beacon chain, that was one additional parameter that was set different from Ethereum. Do I understand this correct?
Precisely, yes.
Okay, I was not aware of that. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, so
I guess
line methods, that's here, I guess.
Yeah, and just to be explicit,
in Ethereum today, to double the size of the set in Ethereum, it takes, I think now, a year, and in Gnosis would be 2 days. So my guess is that was changed for validator UX, so that makes the onboarding queue easier, or that's what I want to believe. I don't really understand why this value was picked.
Yeah, no, I also don't know. I was certainly not involved in any discussion around that. And how would this change if, let's say, if the validator count on Gnosis would double? I mean, would kind of just double normally? So let's say we would have, let's say, 250,000 validators. Would it then just take 4 days, or would it then would it change in some way? Or I mean, let's say from 250,000 to double, then again, would it? I mean, basically, is it linear, or are there any other effects?
Well, it's linear. So if you double the size, you double the churn limit.
Yeah, so basically you take the number of validators and then you divide by the churn limit quotient, which is 65,000 and then some, and 4,000 for Gnosis. So meaning if we now have 250,000 validators, then, well, yeah, it's linear. So we will have 48 validators that can join per epoch. Roughly.
I mean, I think so. I think the thought process here is any network that's permissionless, it can experience a takeover attack at any rate. That you can still do that with Ethereum. I guess that the point is, if the speed matters, I would say yes. Like if you want to run, for example, L2s, the fact that some external party can do a malicious takeover that within less than the validity period. That's kind of sketchy.
Yeah, I mean, I think for Gnosis Chain, it would, for example, be relevant for if we would have our or we already have it partially, kind of the light client bridge. Then, yeah, you could run an attack on this bridge potentially. Or I mean, it would be more feasible to run an attack on the bridge or on the light client bridge with sufficient capital.
Yes, well, that's the kind of the source of the conversation. I think a conversation with a partner or something. Yeah. So basically, we've been discussing if we can change this, but of course, this would be kind of change in the consensus layer clients to basically add a variable to say, okay, can we update this version during Capella or Deneb or whatever, and say, okay, this is now to do the 16th, like Ethereum or whatever. We haven't found the right value for Gnosis yet, but if we want to change it, then consensus layers, layer clients have to change as well. So yeah, that's kind of the current state of it.
Yeah, and the reason we would lose compatibility with Ethereum would simply be that essentially there would need to be this tiny extra rule that says from this block number on this parameter changed.
Yes, exactly. So what I think, what the ideal solution would be is to like have maybe an EIP or JIP, I don't know which one it is, but that basically says, I mean, that does the protocol change to say, well, so that it also works for Ethereum, and so that clients can implement this for whatever variables, for example, and that we have consensus, so they don't implement it specifically for us. But in the meantime, some clients agree to do this just for us, but still kind of want to get rid at some point.
I mean, just thinking out loud, it might be also not a really desirable solution, but I guess in theory, we could do something on smart contract level, so kind of on the deposit contract, and yeah, basically modify the deposit contract in such a way that there's some rate limiting.
Yeah, but the point of this is to like to enforce like the Casper FFE protocol. So if 1/3 of the validators do a slashing action or attack the chain and attempt to finalize 2 competing blocks, if the queue is so fast, they could escape the penalty, and that breaks like a bunch of assumptions made on the original paper. It also, I'm not sure if you guys know, there is this weak subjectivity attack where you can withdraw validators and then construct a chain and trick everyone into following the chain, and that's why we have checkpoint sync. The fact that this value, the churn is so high and people can enter and exit so quickly, it makes this weak subjectivity window extremely short, meaning that technically today, if you sync with something, I would have to do the numbers, but maybe if you sync with a state that's longer than days, you could be following the wrong chain and you would have no idea. So yeah, like again, the value in Ethereum was picked for a reason. And probably anything lower than that is unsafe. And I'm not talking about the specific value. We'd have to compute in terms of time. So probably even in the case of Gnosis, would have to be even higher than Ethereum.
What do you think about the idea to address this on the deposit contract level?
Well, it doesn't solve anything because once you are outside the consensus set, you cannot be slashed.
Well, I mean, what you could address, in my view, on the deposit contract level is you could rate limit. I mean, one concern is that you too quickly can add new validators, and if the deposit contract would have some form of rate limiting.
Okay. You mean for but there are 2 problems, like inflows and outflows. The deposit contract can only rate limit outflows, inflows. Sorry.
In inflows, right? But I mean, that to me is, well, okay. I mean, maybe I don't yet understand the other problem, but
Both are
let's
equally
first
bad.
focus on the. And let's start with the inflow problem. So the inflow problem is, if you want to attack, let's say, this light client bridge, that's purely the inflow problem, right?
Yes.
And then describe to me again what's the outflow problem, or
So
what's
the
at least the
problem
attack.
is you can you create two conflicting blocks and then you exit, and you exit before you get slashed. Like we would even have to compute, even if the exit queue is so fast, I'm not even sure that the chain could slash everyone before you exit. And even so the slashing mechanism is not quite trivial. Like there is an expectation that you would remain for some period of time, so that you can okay, what was it? Yeah, okay. If you are found of a slashable offense, you are delayed for a bunch of time, so you can be applied an additional penalty if there is a sustained attack on the network. And we'll have to see how that interfaces with this. I'm not sure if that parameter will also change. Anyway, we'll look into it and come back with more details.
Yeah, let's not dive too much into details in this call. I'm not sure everyone is interested. But yeah, then there was a second research topic, which is the gas limiting I talked about briefly yesterday on Telegram. So basically the gas limit has been voted down in on the blockchain on Gnosis. So we went from 30 million since December, basically 2021, and now down to 17 million again. Well, I think 2 weeks ago, basically. So we found out who was doing this. Whatever, that's not really the problem. But the question now is, could it be like just a bad configuration or something? Because it's exactly the same as before. I mean, in 2021, so the 17 million. So yeah, could it just be some client that did an update or something like that fixed this, or I mean, changed this, or uses the wrong configuration, or maybe old validators that came back?
Before we discuss that, can you guys give me or maybe also for others, an update again? So my understanding is on each block you can essentially vote the gas limit up or down, right?
Yes.
And so in my understanding, to change the limit from 30 million to whatever, more than 50% of the validators would need to vote on. Basically, my assumption was that if more than 50% vote on 30 million, it will be 30 million. So that seems like currently more than 50% of all validators are voting 17 million. Is this correct?
Actually, I'm not sure that's how it works. I don't exactly know. Maybe Lion has more information on that regard. Lion?
On the mechanism of gas limit?
Yeah. Is that something decided by the consensus layer, or?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so the conclusion we reached yesterday is that basically when you create a block, you just say, okay, this is the gas limit for my block, and then you can have it be a few percentage points or whatever lower or higher than the gas limit from the previous block. And as far as I know, then every validator just says, yeah, for me, this is not a gas limit, for my block at least. And there's no vote between validators. And then the issue is that basically there is one validator that sets its lower every time. So they have a gas limit target of 17 million, and other validators don't vote it back up because it's not code. I mean, the way the clients work, at least Nethermind, as far as I understood, is that if they don't have specific value set, so the 30 million, then it just takes the previous block block gas limit and applies it to their block.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's more a question to the Nethermind and or kind of I think to the execution client developers. Do you know how it?
Yeah, so that's what we discussed yesterday, and actually Nethermind
I
already
see.
has a PR up
I
to set the default, but then also kind of enforce it and vote it back up instead of just taking the previous gas limits.
So basically now the situation is that most validators or most validators essentially just don't have any opinion, so they just keep it whatever the previous guy said, and so it's kind of a small number of validators can essentially set the gas limit right now because everyone else doesn't care.
Exactly. So there's mostly like one validator who is just, well, that's just one validator as far as I've found until now at least, that sets it down, and all of the other ones just follow, and some of them push it back up. Maybe Aragon tries to get it to 30 million by default. I'm not sure. Maybe Andrew has more information.
So basically we would need at least one larger validator to start voting for, or to explicitly set it to 30 million, or kind of start voting to towards 30 million to get it back to 30 million, right?
Right. But also it's not really an issue for now because blocks are not full in any means anyway, so it doesn't really change anything. But yeah, it's
not too great. That kind of, I mean, essentially it means if one guy or fairly small guy could even probably bring it all the way down to whatever 0% or
yeah. So it can go down to I think 5,000 or something. So 5 million.
Right.
So quite low. But yeah, so this is going to be fixed with this Nethermind update. So should not be a problem further down the line. But so the question kind of is, it's a bit strange that it's the 17 million and not something else, which is whatever it was before, which might indicate that there is some, I don't know, some configuration issue or whatever, that it's now targeting like 17 million when it should be targeting 30. I don't know, but yeah, I guess that's no conclusive.
I mean, if I just look at the historic chart, then it seems to be, I mean, it seemed to be till November, well, yeah, until November 2021. Okay, well, that was way back. Until then it was somehow, somewhere, I guess the 17 million was at some point the default setting, but that was a long time ago. So not sure how that number survived.
Yeah, I think that was the EIP, I mean, the London hard fork. I'm not entirely sure though.
Well, I mean, usually you don't need a hard fork to change the gas limit.
True, but with EIP 1559, as far as I know, it was doubled.
Right.
I remember correctly.
Right. Kind of the logic changed because 30 million now is effectively 15 million before, because blocks are on average only half full, right.
So yeah, that's kind of it for today, I guess. Unless someone else has questions or topics to address.
Yeah. So regarding hype tests, I know the person is not here. That could we maybe try to agree on what is a completed picture that we want to see before feeling confident on testing on that front? I'm not sure if that makes sense or is even necessary.
Yeah, so do you want to know basically when we consider tests to be good enough to be, well, so that the hard fork can move to the testnet and mainnet, or what's the question?
Yeah, basically. So I think from previous conversations, I understood that client teams would really like to have, like, I'm not sure if we were like set on, we need Hive test as a prerequisite for going for mainnet. If that is the case, then what that would look like. Should Hive tests that run against all clients, so Nethermind and Aragon, or only Nethermind would be good? What specific, do they have to cover all scenarios, or only some of them would be good? I'm not sure if we want to bake this in now, or just see how far we come, and if there is a crunch, then we can decide.
Yeah,
I would
guess-
say, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I would say it would be enough if we can just run contract specific parts, because withdrawal wise, this is the only difference between the mainnet and Gnosis. So if we modify those tests, they're dealing with account balance, because now it should be the test should check the contract. If you modify that part, it should cover, I guess, everything. I mean, regarding withdrawals, and we should be fine.
All right, I think that's something we should discuss a bit more with Marcus as well. But yeah, I'll try to get a meeting with him before next week, sorry, to kind of get more updates regarding this specifically. So yeah, anything else? In this case, oh, sorry, Martin, did you want to say anything?
Yeah. I mean, I missed the last 2 calls, I believe. Are there any updates, or is there any progress on the shutter topic?
Yes. So Lane and I were not very, I guess, wanted some more specific specs for the Shadowrise Beacon chain, and we've got this all now on a GitHub repo, on the pull request more specifically, where we can at least comment and ask for more details. And as far as I know, we have a call plans, but I'm not sure when exactly, to kind of address this and make sure that we have very specific specs before implementing them. I can
good point. So seeing if Andrio is here, could you comment on if you were to also tackle some feature of specific execution layer that requires different rules of block production, what document or information do you expect to see? In the sense that, for example, for consensus layer, we have the spec test, which clearly define the code in Python, plus other rules. You guys have the IP. So what sort of document and to what level of the specification are you expecting to see from a new feature like this? Well, if Andrio is offline, maybe Ruben, I think you are the only one from Nethermind today. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, well, actually, I haven't checked yesterday's message from Yannick, so.
So I guess for
not much from. Yes.
For the Capella fork, what do you guys look at the EIP and that's it, or what reference documents do you need?
Well, I would prefer to get back this question like later today or tomorrow. Just I need to update like.
Got it. So I guess my feeling is I'm a bit skewed. So coming from consensus, we have had a very solid research pipeline where everything is extremely well specified in a very solid manner. But I know that execution due to their legacy component, it's much more of a Wild West. And like Nethermind, they essentially developed all of Gnosis Chain components without any specs whatsoever, just looking at gnarly code from Open Ethereum, which is an impressive feat. So maybe they are more okay with under specified protocols, but would be good to confirm expectations from everyone.
I guess I'll get back to Ruben then in the coming days. Was this what you wanted, right?
Yeah, I will update what we have, the latest information on this topic, and we'll get back to you. Yeah, so we'll be in touch.
Awesome, thank you. All right, well, if that's it, then thanks for joining, and see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Philip.
Bye.